All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Overcome Become podcast. With me, as always, is my co-host Humberto Kaufman, and today we have a very special guest. We have the winner of the 2019 Toronto Pro Show and the 2019 Puerto Rico Pro Show, Jon De La Rosa. How are you doing today, big guy?
What's going on, guys? How are you? It's very nice to be here with you guys.
We appreciate having you, man. We're doing great. Thank you.
Good.
Jon, I got to say, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Obviously, as we are both amateur competitors, it's just a pleasure to sit down and just kind of pick your brain and hear about you, right? Hear about what initially got you into bodybuilding as a whole. I'm curious, what is it that caught your attention growing up in the first place? And, how did you find bodybuilding and competing, for example?
Well, my story is very different from, I would say, 99% of the people that compete. My father is a bodybuilder. Even till this age of 59, he still lifts heavy. He still looks like a tank. He's getting ready to compete now. So from a very young age, I was around the sport. I was looking at the magazines, reading the magazines. I couldn't wait to get the next issue of Flex or Muscular Development or whatever it was and see who won the shows and stuff. Me and my dad would kind of talk about it and go over it all and analyze the physiques and who I wanted to look like. And of course, I was a shorter guy, so I aspired to be people like Sean Ray and Lee Priest and Lee Labrada and, all those guys. So, from a very early age, training was something that I enjoyed because I would always see my father training, and my father was the biggest guy out of all of my friends' fathers. So whenever my friends would come over, my dad would pick us up from school, like they would climb all over. I'm like, oh my God, your dad is the Hulk. So of course, as a kid, I'm like, yeah, my dad's the coolest thing in the world. And I wanted to be like him. So whenever my dad would train at home with dumbbells or, bench press, he had a bench press at the house. He had a bunch of dumbbells and stuff. So I would train with him. I would pick up some dumbbells and just start messing around at 7, 8 years old. And, my dad was my training partner up until 4 years ago. I'm 30, I'm going to be 37 next month. Me and my dad trained together every day for over 20 something years. So that's how I got into the sport. It's not something that, I was bullied or, I had a body image issue or, when I compete, it's a very different thing for me. Some guys, after having been in the sport for some time and becoming friends with these people, a lot of them, have these, at least some of the guys that I know, they have these things that they're constantly harping on to help them be better athletes, right? Whether it was that they were bullied as kids or they were overweight or whatever. See, I don't have that. I just naturally just wanted to be better than what I was. I wanted to be bigger than what I was. I wanted to be more muscular. And everybody has that same goal. I just don't have some negative connotation to get me there. For me, it's just pure love and excitement of pushing myself to be better. That's it.
See, that's very interesting because I think a lot of people may think that in order for you to be a good bodybuilder, you kind of have to come from like a dark side of thing, whether it was like a past from addiction or some sort of bullying, as you mentioned. But
right.
I mean, you are proof that that's not necessarily the truth. You can actually become, the very best version of yourself, but just the pure passion and love of what you do. And you don't necessarily have to be fighting your demons the entire process, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, life has dealt me some pretty rough hands and I've dealt with them, and I would be lying if I said I don't use them, right? But that wasn't the driving force in me becoming an IFBB pro bodybuilder. I mean, it was just something that I love to do, and I genuinely enjoy going to the gym. I love training with my dad and hanging out with the guys and just, it was for me, that was my thing. Some kids like to play video games. Some kids like to, I don't know. To me, just the gym was always my place. You know what I mean? I just always felt home there.
And I guess, coming from that aspect too, like being able to train with your dad, it probably brought you guys incredibly close together as well, right? So it was a nice bonding too.
Yeah, my dad's my best friend. I mean, we don't go a day without talking to one another. If we do, that's very, very, very rare. But we talk to each other every single day. My father knows everything about my life, relationships, finances, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. He knows. And he is my best friend. And what better person to go to in life than somebody who, you know, cares about you as much as your parent does, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, the bond that me and my dad have, like, I always tell everybody it's weird because my dad is my best friend, but he's also my dad, you know? So it's a little bit of a weird dynamic, but I wouldn't change it for the world. My dad is, to me, he's the greatest man who's ever walked the earth.
It's amazing to hear, man. I bet a lot of people hearing this would probably be just envious hearing of that relationship, right? I guess some people maybe think it's weird. I don't know. I mean, if you have that great of a relationship with your parents, why not, right? But
yeah, I mean, I think it speaks for me. If I meet another person who has a very close relationship to their family, like, it speaks volumes of the kind of person that they are, right? Like, it says that you're a family person. You value relationships, you value tradition, you know what I mean? So maybe some people don't see it like that. We live in a very selfish world. But for me, it's like, like I said, I wouldn't change it for the world. And it's not like that with just my dad. My dad, yes, me and my dad have a very special relationship, but my whole family, we are a very, very close-knit family. You know, I talk to my brothers and my sister very often. I talk to my mom every other day or so. Whenever my dad's around my mom, you know, I talk to my mom. So it's like, we're very, very close. We spend all the holidays together. It's just the way we are, you know?
How do you manage getting really deep into your training and training for such a show as the Mr. Olympia, for example, where you have to be 100% all out? How do you balance this type of situation and approach and style of training while still maintaining your relationships, whether it's with your friends, with your family and such? Are there any tips or things that you have learned along the way through the years that you could perhaps give some sort of advice to the people just up and coming amateurs and even new pros?
Well, yeah, yes and no. So I can't speak. I'm not the best in the world, and I'm far from it. I think I've done well in my career. I would like to do better. But I think there's something to be said about the importance of time. And we're only here for so long. We don't know when our time is going to be up. And bodybuilding is a sport. It's a hobby. It's something that, you know, I love. I wouldn't give it up for the world unless I absolutely needed to. But while we're here, you know, I think it's important to have a balance of the things that make you like fulfill you as a person, right? Bodybuilding is a part of that for me. It's not all of it. And I think anyone who makes bodybuilding or anything in their life, it could be, you know, I don't know, TV or video games, like anything, too much of anything can become bad, is what I'm saying. So, you know, although bodybuilding is a huge part of my life and I love it, and, you know, I do also believe that there needs to be a balance in your life. And for me, it's easy to, you know, be dieting and go, for instance, my sister's, you know, thankfully is pregnant, and she had a gender reveal party just the other week in Orlando.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was an amazing, it's crazy that my baby sister's pregnant. Flex, please stop. My little dog is crying to go outside. Hold on, let me know.
Oh, I understand all about that. I have a very, very loud dog at home.
Yeah.
So anyways, everybody though.
You know, it was nothing for me to just get my meals ready and drive 4 hours to Beats to spend time with my family. Mm-hmm. You know, I scheduled my training around it. I made sure that I was scheduling a day off. I made sure I had my meals prepped. I packed them. I drove 4 hours to Orlando. I spent the entire day with them, ate my meals, drove back 4 hours. I was in bed and ready to train legs the next day. Mm-hmm. So there's a balance, right? There's a lot of people that I know that would have said, "Oh, I'm not driving 4 hours. I got to prep my food. I got to stay home. I'm in prep. I got to do this." Like, and they would have given up that time. But, you know, God forbid anything ever happened. You know, if I lost someone in my family that day. And selfishly, I was thinking to myself, well, I'm in prep. I think that's something that would have, eaten me alive. So I always value spending time with the people that I care about, my family, my friends. If I have an opportunity to spend time with them, and look, it's just time. Like it's nothing, Yeah. So it's nothing, but it's everything. And for me, it's an easy decision. You just got to plan. You got to plan ahead. That's it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of actually thinking long-term, and this includes life after bodybuilding and what you actually have left after you're done with all this. Once the hype and, the attention and the competitive aspect, once that is over, what do you have left? Sure, money comes and goes, but, is these relationships that you potentially deterred and affected in the process if you were too selfish, that once you're done, you're going to face the consequences of that, right? And as you mentioned,
right. You'll be left alone.
And you don't have that, like, time does not get back. It's something once it's gone, it's gone, right? So
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely admire the bonds that you have, man. Like I saw your Insta stories there when you were at the gender reveal in Orlando for your sister, and then all I could think was like, that's incredibly wholesome, because like I know for me, like I have 4 sisters, coming from a very, very tight-knit Spanish family. My mom can't even speak English, right? So those memories, they matter the most. They really
Of course.
do.
Of course.
And lots of nieces and nephews. So I mean, let's say, for example, like our lifestyle, especially yours, because you're at the pro level, it can be selfish. You miss 1 birthday or 2 birthdays. Just speaking generally, like you're not getting that time back. Those memories you're not a part of, right?
And the thing that I think a lot of people unfortunately misread or misinterpret is that in order for you to spend meaningful time, in order for you to spend meaningful time with the people that you love or care about, it means you need to be eating, or you don't.
It involves food or drinks.
Yeah, and you don't. You can bring your own food. Yeah, sure. Are you gonna maybe be a little embarrassed that you're bringing your own food to a restaurant? Well, who cares? You're still spending time with your family or the people that you care about. That's what matters. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I've always had that kind of outlook on it. I think it's really important to, again, spend time with the people that you care about. Bodybuilding isn't everything. It can't be everything. And it's just like anything else. Too much of one thing can be really bad for you. Bodybuilding is a selfish sport already. I went a stretch. I didn't celebrate my own birthday. See, I'll give up things like that. I hadn't celebrated my own birthday in like 8 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. To me, it's just another day. Mm-hmm. But I still went, my family still bought a birthday cake. They still sung happy birthday to me. They still cooked dinner, and I was there eating my meals. You know what I mean? Of course. Of course. So, the cool thing is that, my family is very understanding of the career that I've made for myself and what I need to do. So for them, it's just kind of like, oh, Jon's eating his, Jon's in prep again, like, and they're okay with it, and eventually for the people that are listening, your friends, your family will be okay with it. They'll understand, okay, this, whoever you are, you're doing your job, you're doing what you'd like to do, and they're going to be supportive of it.
Did you encounter a little bit more of resistance from your family and friends in the beginning? Because I'm assuming by now they obviously understand, they know what you're doing, and they're used to it almost, so to speak. Was it a little bit harder, like when you were an amateur, when you first starting? Did you experience any sort of resistance, or not really?
Again, I lived a very different life. Like my mom, like, I guess it's not very different for most Spanish families, right? But like, we ate rice and chicken, or rice and fish, or rice and steak. So like, my mom knew what the bodybuilding life was about before I was heavily into it. So no, I didn't get pushback. I will say, the only kind of pushback that I got from my family was my mom. She hated seeing me when I was a week or 2 out from a show. She'd be like, just eat a little bit of food. You'll feel better. Like, No.
It was probably like,
You
I don't
know,
like
that's
how
like,
your face looks. You look too
yeah,
skinny.
yeah, you're too skinny. So, you know, my grandmother too. So it's okay on that end. Of course, they weren't pushing me to, but you know, obviously they were just a little concerned that I was a little too skinny, and God, you know, that drives people up the wall. Oh my God, I'm too skinny. For me, I just kind of like laugh it off and, you know, say, no, Mom, I'm okay. I got another week, and you know, then I'll enjoy all the food you want to cook for me.
I think that's like a normal Spanish thing though, because like I know
Oh,
when I competed last October, it was like the same thing. It was like
oh God, yeah.
My mom was like, no, it's fine. Your coach won't notice. Just have a little bit more. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, no. Like, don't worry. Like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
A couple days and we can go out to eat. Whatever.
Yep.
So, Jon, I know you're a coach as well, and kind of going back to the actually topic of birthdays. I'm very curious to know how you handle it. I'm sure you have experienced potentially a situation with a client when they're in prep and they're like, you know, it's my birthday coming up, and they might be close to the show. How do you approach that topic? Because, you know, for someone that is perhaps not as experienced, or they haven't really been in this situation, obviously they're going to resort to the coach's answer when it comes to this.
Right.
Is there a rule that you have when it comes to whether it's cheat meals, when it comes to these social aspects? How do you explain to them how to go about these situations when it comes to birthdays or social events?
Well, number one, I think I try to make it as clear as possible with that person that I'm working with. What is their goal? I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't make sacrifices. I just told you I didn't celebrate my own birthday for 8 years. Right now, if your goal is just to get up on stage and just kind of have fun, and you're not really caring where your career on the stage goes, I might say, you know what, go enjoy a meal. It's okay. Now, if you're trying to be your absolute best, and let's just use, you know, you're 2 weeks out from a show as an example. If that person's a little bit behind, I might say, hey, you know, I understand it's your birthday, but you know, we still have a little catching up to do, and you know, the choice is yours. I'm not a dictator. You know, I don't want someone to feel as though I'm telling them what they need to do with their life. I'm simply a coach. I'm going to give you my advice. And in that person's situation, I might say, you know, if it was me and I was a little bit behind, I would skip out on that cheat meal for another 2 weeks. Just keep pushing and, you know, get the result that you're trying to get on stage, rather than having the pleasure of a cheat meal or spending time with your family and eating, but also bearing that disappointment in 2 weeks because you didn't do everything you could have done to be your absolute best. So, you know, I often leave it in the hands of the client to make the ultimate decision, but I do lay out options for them, right? I tell them, okay, well, if you cheat, it might have a positive effect, but from where I'm standing, it probably won't. And here's what will happen. You know, it may lead to a negative outcome. If that's a risk that you're willing to take, you, by all means, we will adjust accordingly. If not, here's what I do think we should do: continue pushing through and whatever.
I think that's a very important aspect to kind of keep in mind, because once you approach a situation in this way, I think the client understands that rather than, as you mentioned, a dictatorship, like my way or the highway, it's more of a collaboration in which both parties have to put their best, right? Because if the client is just, they have to actually understand that it's, at the end of the day, it's their goal. So having conversations like this is very eye-opening for a lot of people, because they're like, in some cases, I think they just come almost like snap out of it. They're thinking about that birthday cake. They're thinking about, you know, the couple drinks and whatever. And they're just kind of like deviating their sights from the goal at hand. And you just kind of, the coach, instead of just telling them, no, you're forbidden to do this. You this is no. Basically, this is where the reason why you started, and you should continue down this path because of this, and this, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's amazing. Kind of like sticking a little bit around the topic of the client-coach relationship. Personally, for you, whether it was when you were an amateur or now being a professional, what is your train of thought or process when it comes to picking a coach? What are the main things that you pay attention to? What are your main considerations? What is what you look for when it comes to this relationship?
Well, at this stage in my life, you know, I would be, I'm picking my words carefully here because I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but
take your time.
Of course.
You know, when it comes to picking a coach, there was a time in my life where I wanted a coach who I felt was producing the best athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the reason why I wanted that is because I felt like, okay, if this person has, you know, 10 champions on their roster, they must be doing something right.
Right.
Right. I've worked with several different coaches in this industry, and I will tell you that there is no one outstanding coach better than the other. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their different methods. I don't believe that anyone is better than the other. I just feel that there are different ways to skin a cat, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. At this stage of my career and at this stage of my life, it's important to me more so than whatever champion this person has on their roster or how many pro wins they have. I mean, look, every coach has their thing, right? What they hang their reputation on. Let's just put it that way. Some of them say they've produced Mr. Olympia. Some of them say they have so many pro wins and whatever it is. None of that shit matters to me anymore. And the reason being is because if you don't believe in my goal, then we're just not going to work out. I need someone who believes in me and what I'm trying to accomplish just as much as I do. And when you find a coach that can provide you with that, I think the opportunities can be endless. I've hit that rhythm a few times with a few different coaches, Chris Aceto being one of them. Me and Chris Aceto we were hitting our stride, the Orlando Pro Brazil, you know, the Arnold Classic Brazil back in 2014, 2015. Probably the best I've ever looked, aside from this last year in 2019 or 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, like, he was excited when I was getting on stage. He was excited when I was getting ready. Like, he was genuinely excited. And then we had we hit a show. We didn't do as well. I forget which one it was. And then we did another show and we didn't win. And I kind of felt, you know, he wasn't as excited as it was. And then we did the Olympia and I wasn't one of the guys that he was checking in on as much. You know what I mean? He had other guys that were there that were. So, you know, and that's happened to me with several different coaches. Like I said, it's understandable, right? Like if you're a betting man, you're going to put your attention to your top dollar on the horse that you feel has the best chances of winning. Mm-hmm. Right? So as a coach, I understand the business of it. But at the same time, I feel like, again, at this point of my life, it's important you're building a relationship with this person. And this person needs to understand that there are many other factors in your life that don't involve bodybuilding. Yes. Right. And they need to be able to understand those things, work around those things, work with you on those things. You know, if it was as easy as, hey, coach, send me over a plan, you know, I'm going to follow it to the T and we're going to be Mr. Olympia. You know, how many people would be Mr. Olympia? I can't tell you. There has probably been a handful of times, on one hand, there's probably a handful of times that I have missed a meal or ate off of my meal during prep. Mm-hmm. And I've been competing over 20 years. Probably a handful. Like I said, wow. I mean, one hand, if there's five times that I've missed a meal or ate a meal off of my plan, in all the years that I've been doing that, that's a lot. Wow. Okay. So if that's what it took to be Mr. Olympia, then I'd be Mr. Olympia 100 times over. The thing is that there are some athletes like myself who, you know, there are other aspects that I live a very full life. I have a business, I have friends, I had a wife, there's a lot of things happening, right? And your coach needs to understand that. Your coach, again, you're building a relationship with this coach. Your coach needs to understand, okay, all right, this person's got this going on. For instance, when I was working with Chris Aceto, getting ready for the Orlando Pro, he knew I was working very long hours. He adjusted my diet. He would call me constantly. How are you feeling? Is there enough food? Are you feeling hungry? What are you feeling during the night? Communication was on point. I was probably my best at that show. And then there's been others where they just write a plan. Okay, go do it. And that's it. And then I'm left stressed out at the end of the day because it's like, okay, well, do I look ready? You're not getting that feedback. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think there's many other factors when you're picking a coach. Like I said, at this stage of my life, I want a coach that, number one, believes in what I'm trying to accomplish, right? That's a really, really important thing, because if they don't believe in what you're trying to accomplish, they're probably not going to work as hard as you think they're going to work, right? They're probably just going to write a plan, check in with you once a week, take your money, and that's it. But if they believe in you, they're going to call you and say, hey, how you feeling today? How's your training? How's your pumps going? Is there enough food? Is it too little food? How's your, everything. They're going to want to know everything about you because they're going to want you to be your best. If you don't have that, I'm sorry, your coach is not doing their job.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately it's a little bit tricky in this day and age because with social media and you have a highlight reel, right? So you're looking for a coach. Let's say you're starting out a bodybuilding, perhaps you've done a few shows or whatnot. You're almost limited, especially if the coach is not, whether it's not the same state or even country. You're only limited to the information that you see online. Of course, it's very easy to portray a certain image of the coach's abilities and the coach's success and whatnot, where in reality I think if you're only basing yourself on that because that is you have limited ability to do a proper research, then it's kind of likely that you may not nail it at that first or second attempt because you're only able to see the success. You don't really know what the coach may be like to work with until you're actually involved with it, right? So it can get pretty tricky. Myself, I've had numerous coaches as well, and I think and I'm definitely in agreement with what you mentioned, that there's not necessarily only one way to get things right. Like there's different approaches to get to the same result. And I just have to go through some trial and error until you get the one that best works for you and your lifestyle and your current situation. Because from what I'm understanding, in your case, what you're trying to do is you're trying to maximize every aspect of your life without either of them affecting the others. Would that be fair to say? Yeah. Okay. Correct. Yeah. So that's basically what I'm trying to do as well currently, because I love bodybuilding. I'm currently coaching athletes. I just started my first promoting venture. I'm going to have a show in Mexico. So a lot of things are starting. Oh, good. Yeah. So a lot of things are starting to kind of like get together. I'm trying to balance my best possible way between family, between bodybuilding, which is my passion, between my clients, between this and that. And I don't want to necessarily have any of them being affected. So it's tricky to find that balance, but I think if you actually make the effort in it, you will get there.
Yeah, I think that if you put in the effort and if you surround yourself again with the right people, the possibilities are endless. I have never liked to be told that I can't do something. I have been told that I would never be a bodybuilder. I was too short. I wasn't big enough. I wasn't, everything in the book. And here I am. I've traveled the world. I've had, a lot of success in bodybuilding and outside of bodybuilding through bodybuilding. And I've been able to do it with a lot of people not believing that I could do it. But I always had, a strong support system. Now, again, unfortunately, in this day and age, with the way the coaching landscape is, you're a racehorse, especially at the top. You know, if you're competing with these top guys, you're just a racehorse. You're part of the current, you know, crop. And if you're not one of the top guys, you're not going to get the attention that you feel you need. And that's what I mean. Surrounding yourself with the right people. If you find a coach that, you know, whether you're the top guy or not, they believe that you can be, makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Switching gears just a little bit, John, I want to take it back to Toronto Pro 2019.
Yeah.
And just kind of want to ask about that. What was that experience like for you? Because that looks like one of your biggest wins on paper so far in the recent years.
Yeah.
Can you go into detail, like what kind of mindset it took for that prep? You know, Neil Hill being in person with you there, for example. Just the support system that you have is very strong, obviously, of course. I'd love to hear, you know, what that experience was like, and more so just on top of that, you know, really curious, did that win kind of push you towards, you know, wanting to open up the gym that you're currently building now?
So the experience leading into that show was, there was a little bit of redemption for me, in the sense that I had just kind of, I went through a really hard time in my life, going through my divorce with my ex-wife, and, you know, the year after that, competing was just horrible, because I was kind of forcing myself, going through the motions, and just kind of not dealing with the divorce in a healthy way. You know, as I said earlier, too much of one thing can be bad, and I was spending my days in the gym, literally days in the gym, because I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to sit and think about where I was in my life. I didn't want to deal with it. So I just trained. I did cardio and I trained and I ate. I did cardio and I trained and I ate. And it was just, I just stayed away from my thoughts as much as I could. So 2018 wasn't good. 2019 was redemption for me. It was a very personal thing. It wasn't more so to prove to anyone, that it was to prove to me that the sacrifices that I had made all through my career were still worth something to me. It still meant something. It was still valuable. So in 2019, I did the New York Pro against Neil Hill's wishes. I was getting ready for the show, and about a week out, he just kind of told me, he was like, I don't want you to do the show. And I had already committed to it. Family, friends, everybody was already aware that I was doing it. And I was a bit frustrated because that was the plan the entire time. I was getting ready for the New York Pro the entire time. So I went ahead and did it without Neil's, without his approval. And I placed third or fourth, I believe. I don't remember where, but I was disappointed, but still happy I did it. And then Puerto Rico Pro was a week later, and I had already decided in my mind I was going to go win. And I didn't care who was showing up, and it was done in my head. And I know I'm not a very cocky or overly confident person, but I just felt in my heart that it didn't matter who showed up, I was going to win. And man, I busted my ass for those next 6 days, and I just kind of felt at ease. Again, I was just so confident in what I was able to do, that I just was at ease and I was calm. And I went up there, and 4 guys showed up at the Puerto Rico Pro. And one of them, who had beaten me just the week before, I came out and won. And then I was faced with winning the Toronto Pro, right? The Toronto Pro was a competition that I had done probably 8-9 years. I've done it 8 or 9 times. I don't remember, but it's there. I've done it a lot. Every year that I've done the New York Pro, I go and do Toronto Pro. So again, it's usually a week or 2 after. And the promoters out there are just amazing. The show is awesome. It's literally one of my favorite shows to compete at. The fans are great. Just everything, top to bottom, I have a great time. The city of Toronto is awesome. So I knew that Ian was going to be competing Valier.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that he'd be a, you know, formidable competition, but I think I'm a better bodybuilder. I think I'm a little bit more complete. I think my lines flow a little bit better. Personal opinion, you know, obviously his bodybuilding is very subjective, but I just strongly believe that's a physique that I could beat pretty easily if I'm on. And I decided in that moment, I wanted to go win the Toronto Pro, and I knew that Ian would be there, and I knew I needed to be on my A game, and I bought it and I won. So that win for me was really big because it was like, again, the 8th or 9th try. I've placed second. I don't know how many times at Toronto Pro. I placed third. I don't know how many times at Toronto Pro. So it felt really good to win. It felt really good to celebrate that win with my with Neil and Flex and my dad, and just it was a great night.
Love hearing that, man. I really do. I also know, for example, you always are very happy, even when it's your friends, for example, who would win the same show that you'd be competing in. And it's a really like uplifting, positive thing to hear, because it is a selfish sport, right? We all have friends that compete in the same shows and whatever, but competing at the pro level where you're walking away with prize money, you know, it's nice to hear that there's professionals out there that are just generally happy, you know, for their friends and, you know, peers when they walk away, because they know that prize money is going towards helping to build businesses, for example, or just bettering the lives of their families. And I guess the biggest thing that I'm very curious about, Jon, is just how did you and Flex become so close? How did you and Juan become as close as you guys did over the years?
So Flex and I, our friendship really flourished when I moved down here to Florida after my divorce. I'm a very I'm not the guy that's like in the bodybuilding industry, like hanging out with all bodybuilders. It's just not me. I do what I do because I love to do it. That's it. It's not a showboat thing for me. You will never see me in a tank top, you know, walking down the beach, trying to flex. It's just, I don't do it for that. So for that reason, I stay away from a lot of the people in the industry, because there's a lot of egos in this industry. Flex, on the other hand, is a very, very good man. He's a family dude. And, you know, when he found out, obviously he had known me and Flex had been friends before that, but when he found out that I had moved down to Florida and why, he was like, hey, why don't you just come down to the gym? He had his own private gym here. And he was like, just train with me and we'll hang out. And I said, you sure? You know, I don't want to be a bother. And he was like, nah, just come down and train. And after the first day, man, we really got after it. And he was like, you coming back tomorrow? I was like, if you want me to. And that was it. Almost 4 years later, we spent every day together. We trained together. We ate together. You know, I saw his little girl grow up in front of me, and it was an awesome experience. It was an awesome experience. Now, me and Juan and Akeem and Vic and Marco Rivera, the New York boys, we all started. I was the youngest of all of us. I was about 17, 18 years old. I was competing in, you know, all natural organizations, the INBF, NABA, and kicking butt. Me and Sean Clarita were winning almost every INBF show in our weight classes together. It was a good time. And look at Sean now. He's 212 Mr. Olympia, incredible. But yeah, so me and Akeem and Juan and Marco, we embarked on this crazy dream, seemingly at the time, that we wanted to win the Metropolitans, the NPC Mets, back in April. And we were like, yeah, we're going to train and we're going to do it. And, you know, I'm going to win my weight class, and Juan was going to win his weight class. Oh man, that's how it all started. And it seems like a lifetime ago, but see, this is what I mean. Like, those are things that I cherish. It's cool to just think back at that stuff. I haven't thought about that stuff in a long time. And I would go down and train with Juan Morel and Akeem down at Synergy on like the 23rd Street in Manhattan. Then me and Marco would train together almost daily at the Star Fitness in the Bronx. Victor would come train with us every now and again and kick our ass and just show us what it what it took to be a pro. So yeah, I mean, just through the gym and through training and having each other's backs through these, you know, me and Juan competed together, I don't know how many times. And man, he's kicked my ass all over the stage, I don't know how many times too. And I was always happy for him because, like I always said, like, if I'm not winning, I want one of my friends to win. And the reason why I want one of my friends to win is because I know that the friends that I have are good men. And what they're going to do is do something good for their family, right? They're not going to go spend it on showing off or whatever. They're going to try to better their lives. And if these people are being directly, you know, affected by these wins in front of me, right? Like if he can go put money away for his daughter's education or daughter's, you know, whatever it is, and I get to see that smile on her face, it's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if he didn't win, he might not have been able to afford what, I mean, now Juan is doing so good, he could probably do whatever he wants with the My Cookie Dealer. Shout out to those guys there. The cookies are banging.
Oh, we've heard of them all the way here to Canada. So I haven't tried one myself, but I'm definitely on the lookout for those.
You gotta ask. I was getting them to Antoine all the time. Antoine Vaillant. Yeah, Quincy. Anyways, so yeah, I mean the bonds that we created, man, they go far beyond the sport. You know, those guys are my brothers. I tell them all the time, like, you know, they're my blood, and whatever they need from me, I'm there. And it's the same thing. Like, I can pick up the phone. As a matter of fact, I haven't spoken to Juan. I haven't sat down and spoken to Juan in probably over a month at this point right now. If I picked up the phone right now and called him, he'd be like, "Hey man, what's going on? How's the gym coming along?" Because he knows, like, I'm out here busting my ass and trying to, you know, make this gym successful. There's never any like animosity, or he's always looked out for me. Same thing with Victor, same thing with Akeem, same thing with Marco, and vice versa. I'm always looking out for my boys too. Again, those guys are my brothers, and that'll never change.
People like that, I think they're very hard to come across these days.
Yeah.
Regarding, you know, kind of going back and taking a look briefly at your training, how has your training evolved through the years from when you started bodybuilding to right about now? Has it changed at all? Have you had to change your approach, your style of training as you got perhaps a little bit older?
No, I don't think that. So for me, I just love training, right? And I've tried different styles of training. I've tried some German volume training. I've tried all types of stuff. To me, I stick to the basics. You know, I love progressive load. I work my way up to the top set, go to failure, back off if I need to get some extra reps. That's the stuff that works for me. I don't, again, I got to watch my words because, you know, I know people are going to be hearing this. I don't believe in all the fluff behind number of reps or sets or how to do your reps and tempos and all this crazy shit. It's a business, and I get it.
Do you think there's a tendency of perhaps overcomplicating something that is not that complicated when it comes 100%. To training? Okay.
100%. And that's what I mean. Like, you know, I have friends who do really well, you know, selling their own programs.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I do believe the hard stuff is what makes you grow. There's no way around that.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of grown apart from just the basics, as you're mentioning. I think people are very concerned with looking at what's the next new thing, what's the most edgy style of training that is going to get you the results fast.
Here's something that, like, I tell this to a lot of the younger kids that I see at the gym, and they ask me questions, and they're doing all these crazy angles, and like, I'm like, hey, okay, who's the greatest bodybuilder in your eyes? And most of them, because they're younger, like, oh, Ronnie Coleman. I'm like, okay, go look back at any Ronnie Coleman video. You let me know if he's twisting and turning and doing reps. Like, let me know if you find one exercise like that. No, what you're gonna find is you're gonna find that motherfucker benching heavy, squatting heavy, leg pressing heavy, deadlifting heavy, doing all the hard stuff. That's it.
No flaw.
That's what it takes. Not turn yourself and press this way.
Yeah, that one.
What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Just stop.
Yeah.
Just do the hard stuff, man. That's it.
Yeah. No, that's very it's a very important topic, I think, because there's a lot of there's very different opinions, and a lot of people believe on the complete opposite of what we're talking about here, and a lot of people like us believe that it's. I personally subscribe that kind of in the middle. I think there's maybe
there's definitely room. There's definitely room to learn and to you're not going to perfect things, but to get better at things, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you still got to do the hard stuff. You know what I mean? It still
there's
needs
no way
to get
around
done. There's no way around it. Yeah, you can sit on the side of the bench and press and do all your weird shit. That's fine. But if you're not benching heavy, your chest ain't gonna be out to here. If you're not squatting heavy, your legs ain't gonna be out to here. It's just not gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Well, it's the era that we live in, right? It's the social media era where you see, without saying names, like certain people, they put out their signature exercises, and it's like you were saying, the twists, the turns, the TikTok exercises, the Instagram special ebook exercises, right?
Yeah.
And then the younger people who are let's say 16 to 20 are so impressionable. It's like, oh, I could be like that guy. It's like, well, sure, maybe, but you're approaching it completely the wrong way. You're just buying into what they're trying to sell you. And that's it.
Right.
So, I have a question for you, and it's something that I'd love to actually ask everybody. If you could train with anybody, past or present, in their prime, who would it be and why?
That's a good one. I really, 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 really would have loved to have trained with Ronnie. I really would have loved to train with him. Some of the lifts that he does, they're my favorite lifts. He used to love to squat. I love squatting. I used to love to deadlift. I don't deadlift as often as I used to, but he used to love to deadlift. So some of the lifts that he really got his fire going, it does the same thing for me. So I think it would have been interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to keep up with the poundages that he does, but I think it would have pushed me and it would have been fun. Present. That's a tough one for me. Present, because I've trained with some fucking monsters. And can this be like a several answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go with JP.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with James Hollingshead.
Ooh.
And Nick Walker.
Oh man,
those are very good options. Yeah, I love them all. JP is one of my personal favorites. He just seems like a madman when he trains. He just goes into some sort of zone or trance in which he just goes all out, and he's very motivating to me. Past for me, I think it would be Tom Platz, just because he's nuts. Same thing. It would be a good and a bad experience in a way, because you'll be suffering so much because he just seems to be very, very intense. And a good, of course, training with such a legend, I think would be something definitely difficult. But it's those are all very good options. Well, Byron, I don't have anything to add. I don't want to take too much of his time. Do you have anything else that you'd like to talk about?
I don't really have anything to add, and I definitely don't want to take up much of your time because I know you just finished working.
No, guys, I'm good.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my last question would be, well, I got two actually.
Okay.
What brought you to opening a gym? What made you want to do that initially? So
my best friend and partner, my business partner, Sean Covell, he owns 3 gyms out in California. And him and I had been talking about this for years, and we were thinking about doing one in New York. We had looked at buying Star Fitness. We were kind of like feeling out the areas, but once my divorce happened, I was kind of like, you know what? I've always loved Florida. This is an opportunity for, there's no attachments, besides my family in New York, but there's no better time than right now to just kind of get away, explore what Florida would be like for me, and also look at properties to open up this gym. I ran it by Sean, and Sean was like, dude, I love the idea. Let's do it. So he was out in Cali. I moved here about 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years in November. And we started looking right away. And we have a very specific business plan that we were sticking by. Numbers wise, we were making sure that we stuck very, very closely to that. And with that, it was hard to find the building that we needed that would offer everything that we needed to stick by. Either the rent was too expensive or way too expensive because of Miami, or the building wouldn't allow the use for a gym, or we couldn't get the permits because the town didn't want another gym in the town. Whatever it was, we ran into a million roadblocks. That was the first 2 years that I was here. Last year was a complete wash because of COVID. There was just nothing happening. And then this year we picked up. We kept looking, and we finally found a location that fit everything that we needed, space wise, rent wise, everything. It just literally everything. It was perfect. And we went for it, man. And it's something that we've been talking about for a long time. It's personally been a dream of mine for a long time. And to see it actually coming to fruition it's been an awesome experience. It's been incredible. Scary. It's a very stressful thing, but we only live once, man. And if you don't jump when you feel like you have to you have to just take a chance, take an opportunity, just jump and go for it. You might look back at your life and regret it. And I don't ever want to look back at my life and regret anything. So we jumped, we took it. And so far it's been amazing. We plan on having a soft opening June 1st. We're getting over 100 pieces of equipment within the next 2 days. So it's going to be a fun next 2 days unloading these trucks. But yeah, man, it's been, I owned a nutrition store in New York as well, supplement store. And that was called Nutrition Locker. Again, I said I've had a lot of experience inside of bodybuilding, but also outside of bodybuilding through bodybuilding. This is another way that I can continue to provide, a good life for myself and hopefully one day my own family through bodybuilding, but outside of bodybuilding, right? So although I have a successful career in bodybuilding, God forbid I ever get injured, all of that can be gone. So now I'm securing a little bit more of my future in doing this. And this is only step one. We plan on opening several more throughout the state.
It's amazing to hear, man. And not just like a congratulations to the gym, but just your mindset on its own speaks real volumes about your character, how you carry yourself, and just your values in general. Before we go, I guess the one last question I had was your relationship with Team HD and how that came about with you becoming a coach along with Dorian and Antoine and those guys. I'm just curious how that all came about. So
long story, I met Noah and Dorian years ago. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, maybe 8-9 years ago. And Dorian was still an amateur, and I had remembered he had helped me out with something. And he tells this story better than I do, but I was talking to a fan and in the middle of talking to people, and I saw him. I was like, "Hey, Dorian." He was really taken back that I remembered him. And he was just an impressionable person. And I remembered him, and I wanted to acknowledge him and let him know, like, "Hey, I see you. How you doing?" So I guess that left a little bit of impression on him. And then when he approached me last year to become part of HD, the HD supplement family, I was kind of like, all right, I would love to be a part of this, and the numbers were just kind of like not working out. And you know, but I still took a jump and I said, you know what, I have to support this. You know, he's trying to get this thing off the ground and trying to make this thing successful. And man, look at how it's blown up, you know? So I'm proud of the dude. Those guys really work hard. They're really, really good people. Noah and Dorian have always been good to me, always been good to my father. Whenever we see them at shows, they're like hugs and, hey, how are you? You know, they're just good people. So I'm happy to be a part of Team HD. And as I said, you know, the opportunity to coach came up because Dorian has been getting so busy with the supplement line and building out the gyms and just several other business ventures that he's involved in, that he was like, hey man, I need some help. Like, do you mind helping us coach? I was like, sure, why not? Let's do it. You know, it's going to put some more money in my pocket. And again, for me, it's always about securing a little bit better of a future for myself and making sure I have a little bit of a cushion in my bank account just in case, God forbid, anything goes wrong. I tear a bicep or a pec or whatever, I can figure things out, you know. God forbid. I don't ever want that to happen.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. I mean, Dorian and Noah are great dudes, and they've given me an opportunity to be a part of an athlete for their brand, but also coach. And, you know, it's an honor to be working alongside those guys.
That's awesome, man. And I love hearing all this, honestly, because it just, not just for me, but everybody else, it gives them a better perspective as to just what your come up was, who you are as a person, what's going on now, and kind of like a little sneak peek into what life looks like after bodybuilding, and you know, how to kind of secure yourself financially if you are a pro, for example, is looking at the long-term goal, right? So John, I just want to say thank you so much for the time. You know, congratulations again on the newest addition to your family with your sister being pregnant, and you know, good luck in the future with all your projects, man. And hey, we'd love to have you on again in the future, maybe after you compete again, if you got the
time. After I win the Tampa Pro in August.
After you win Tampa Pro.
This August?
Okay, this August, guys. Yeah, this August.
Perfect.
All right,
man. Well, thank you. Thanks again, John. And it was a pleasure today. Thank you for meeting with us. And thank you for all the information and knowledge that you provided us with today. Thank you.
It was great being here, guys. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone you want to plug or shout out before we go?
Just HD supplements. Like I said, they've been awesome. Trifecta Nutrition. They've been sending me my meals and taking care of my food. My family and friends, I love you guys. Thank you for all the support. All you fans out there for always sending me love and support through Instagram or email or whatever. I read every single one of them. Thank you guys so much. I've been blessed to have the career that I have, and it wouldn't be possible with you guys. So thank you guys.
Wonderful. Take care, guys.
Take it easy.
See ya.